Have we ever questioned the existence of God? This question is not merely a philosophical matter. It has been present in the human mind for a very long time. From the ancient Greek philosophers to the thinkers of the Mesopotamian civilization, humans have always pondered and sought answers to this mystery. But is the concept of God merely a product of human thought? It is not just a question of existence, but also about the nature and origins of faith. Even in the ancient texts of India, such as the Upanishads, where spiritual and cosmic knowledge is deeply explored, the question of God is not always explicitly mentioned. This leads us to wonder whether the concept of God is a later invention. What constitutes the entity we call God, an omnipotent, omniscient, eternal, compassionate, just, and wholly good force? Let's follow the story below. One day, someone came and asked the Buddha, "Does God exist?" The Buddha looked into the person's eyes and replied briefly, "Yes." The questioner couldn't believe his ears, as it was known that the Buddha did not believe in God. So why did he give such an answer? At that moment, Ananda, one of the Buddha's closest disciples, was also present, and he was equally shocked. The Buddha had never asserted such a thing without any conditions attached. Throughout his life, he had strongly criticized any notion of God. Before becoming a disciple of the Buddha, Ananda, his cousin, had made some special requests. "You must promise me a few things," Ananda said. "Before I become your disciple, I can make requests, and you must comply." The Buddha smiled. "I know you well." "Speak," Ananda said. "Every night before going to sleep, if I ask you something, you must answer. You cannot say, 'I am too tired today.' I will not disturb you during the day, but occasionally I will have questions." The Buddha agreed to this. "I accept." Ananda continued. "You will not send me anywhere. I want to stay by your side and care for you until death." The Buddha agreed. Ananda added, "If I bring someone to meet you, regardless of the time, you must meet them." The Buddha again agreed. "I will agree to all, for I know you will not take advantage of this." The confusing questions when the Buddha declared that God exists, Ananda found it very confusing. But he couldn't ask in the crowd. That afternoon, another person came and asked the Buddha the same question. "Does God exist?" He replied, "No. There is no God." Ananda was utterly confused but remained silent. That evening, another person asked the Buddha, "Can you tell me about God?" The Buddha just closed his eyes and remained completely silent. The other person also closed his eyes. They sat there for half an hour, immersed in silence. Before leaving, the person bowed down, kissed the Buddha's feet, and said, "Thank you for the lesson." All these events left Ananda stunned. Time seemed to stand still, while he felt as if a fire was burning inside. When everyone had left, Ananda hurried to the Buddha. "I cannot understand." Those three people did not hear all three answers. They only knew one. "But we heard them all. You must consider us too. If this continues, I don't know how we will cope." Understanding the perspective, the Buddha replied, "You must remember one thing. First, those questions were not yours, so I did not answer them for you. Why are you confused? It is not your concern. It is between me and those people." Ananda said, "Now I understand. Those were not my questions, and you did not answer them for me. But I can hear. I heard the question and I also heard the answer. The three answers completely contradict each other. First you said yes, then no. Finally, you were silent. You did not say a word, yet that person kissed your feet and said, 'Thank you for the teaching.'" The Buddha smiled and said, "You see life in a rigid way. That is your problem. Everything is relative. For the first person, the answer had to be yes because it suited him, his question, his essence. I answered yes because he is an atheist. He does not believe in God and I did not want to support his ignorance. Even if there is a tiny unexplored bit, perhaps God exists there. You can only assert absolutely that there is no God after having explored the entire universe. It is only blind belief that there is no God. He has no actual experience of God. I had to wake him up, I had to hit him hard." The noteworthy questions. For the second person, the same question, but behind it was a different person. He was as ignorant as the first, but in the opposite direction. He believed in God and wanted me to support his belief. I do not support anyone's beliefs, because beliefs are a barrier. It doesn't matter what the belief is, whether right or wrong. No belief is right. All beliefs are ignorant. I had to say no to him. Ask the right question. The third person had no beliefs. He approached with an open mind, free of prejudices or biases. He was intelligent and healthy. When asking about God, he didn't seek support for his beliefs but wanted to know about the Buddha's experience. What can you say about God? The Buddha knew that he had no beliefs, whether he believed or not. He was innocent. For such a person, the question wasn't very important. I couldn't say yes, nor could I say no. Only silence was appropriate. Silence is the key. He closed his eyes when he saw me close mine. He understood my answer: be silent and look within. He meditated with me for half an hour, and his answer was that God is not a theory to follow or oppose. That's why he thanked me. He realized that silence is sacred. Beyond silence, there is nothing divine. He left in joy and happiness. He had found his answer. My role was to allow him to be in my presence. Exploring the nature of humanity. If we assume that God created us, it implies that we are reflections of him. We must also be omniscient, generous, loving, and eternal beings. But is that truly the case? When we look at our lives, what do we see? Is it perfection, overflowing joy, and unblemished happiness? Or do we observe a reality where happiness and sorrow are mixed, and challenges are relentless? Perhaps we have created the idea of God to reflect our own desires, fears, and need for security. In the history of India, hundreds of thousands of gods are worshipped, each local deity having its own followers. This prompts us to reflect on whether all these deities are merely products of the human mind, created and then revered in the image we have fashioned ourselves. Ananda and his connection with the Buddha. Ananda, the Buddha's cousin, is a significant figure in this story. He was the son of Amitabhadana, the brother of King Suddhodana, the Buddha's father. His birth was seen as bringing great joy to the family, hence he was named Ananda, meaning joy. Ananda became a monk under the Buddha's guidance, along with other young men from the Sakya clan, including Anuruddha, Bhadra, Bhaga, Kambila, and Devdatta. When the Buddha was 55 years old, Ananda was appointed as his attendant. For the next 25 years, until the Buddha's passing into nirvana, Ananda remained by his side, tending to his daily needs. Ananda possessed an extraordinary memory, recording all of the Buddha's discourses as well as those of several senior disciples without omission. Once, a Brahmin asked Ananda how many teachings he remembered, and Ananda proudly replied that he recalled 82,000 discourses by the Buddha and 2,000 by the Bhikkhus, making a total of 84,000 teachings. The Buddha praised Ananda's 5 virtues: extensive learning, excellent memory, steadfastness, meticulous care, and good conduct. However, it was only after the Buddha's passing that Ananda attained the state of an arhat. This was because, during the Buddha's lifetime, Ananda was preoccupied with his duties as an attendant and with memorizing the Buddha's teachings, like a scholarly disciple engrossed in extensive literature. Ananda eventually passed into nirvana at the age of 120. What can we learn from the story above between the Buddha and his disciples, especially through the question about the existence of God? The question of the existence of God, or a supreme being, has long been one of the most profound and complex issues in philosophy and religion. The Buddha, with his unique perspectives, provided answers that did not merely affirm or deny, but opened up a deep dialogue about how humans understand and experience God. Multidimensional perspective on God. In the story above, the Buddha was asked about the existence of God. He gave different answers to the 3 questioners, reflecting that this question is not merely about an abstract concept, but also about the individuals asking it. For the first person, the Buddha answered, yes, because it was the appropriate response for that person's context and mindset. This person, an atheist, had frequently denied the existence of God. By affirming the existence of God, the Buddha not only awakened an unexplored belief in the questioner, but also helped them reevaluate their own stance. For the second person, the answer was no. This person came with a strong belief in God and wanted the Buddha to support his view. However, the Buddha did not want to endorse any belief without practical experience. He wanted the questioner to realize that belief is not truth and can become a barrier to seeking the truth. Finally, for the third person, the Buddha chose silence. This person did not come with any prejudices or expectations, but simply wanted to understand the Buddha's experience. The Buddha's silent response indicated that sometimes, silence and meditation are the paths to a deeper understanding of the nature of existence. Belief and ignorance. An important point in the Buddha's teaching is the distinction between belief and understanding. He pointed out that beliefs, whether right or wrong, can become barriers in the pursuit of truth. Belief is not a result of actual experience, but often a product of society, culture, and the spiritual heritage we receive. The Buddha did not support any beliefs, and he encouraged people to seek their own experiences and understanding. He emphasized that true understanding comes only from exploration and experience, not from established theories or doctrines. Silence and meditation. From the Buddha's responses, we see that silence can be an important part of seeking the truth. For the third person, the Buddha's choice of silence was not just a reaction but also a method. Silence and meditation can lead to a deeper understanding of the nature of God and life. The questioner closed his eyes and meditated with the Buddha, showing that silence and meditation are ways to explore deeper aspects of oneself and the universe. Silence is not just an external state of stillness, but also a state of mind where we can reflect and seek the truth. Reflections on human nature. When questioning the existence of God, we also need to ask about our own nature. If we assume that God created us, it implies that we are reflections of Him, omniscient, generous, loving, and eternal beings. However, when we look at our lives, do we see these noble qualities? Or are we merely assuming that we possess them? The Buddha emphasized that we might have created the idea of God to reflect our own desires, fears, and need for security. This leads to the question, are all the gods worshipped by humans merely products of the human mind? These gods might reflect human aspirations and thoughts more than a supreme entity. Conclusion. The dialogue between the Buddha and his disciples is not just a discussion about the existence of God but also extends to many aspects of life and knowledge. The Buddha taught that the truth and understanding of God can differ for each individual. He encouraged people to seek personal experiences, unbound by fixed beliefs. Silence and meditation are considered paths to enlightenment, helping people find their own answers. Ultimately, the important lesson from the Buddha is to encourage freedom in thinking and exploration so that each person can find their own truth in life. Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting the Wisdom Life channel. Your likes, shares, and subscriptions mean the world to us and help spread wisdom far and wide. We wish you all the best, filled with joy, peace, and fulfillment in every moment. Stay inspired and keep seeking knowledge. We look forward to seeing you in our next video. Take care and see you soon.